Before we dive into the mystical journey of unlock your hidden energy flow, let's ignite the torch of energy with one simple action. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Every subscription from you becomes a spark of light that helps this story shine brighter across the world, and that light will stay with you through every chapter of this epic adventure. Now let's begin.
There comes a moment in every life when the noise becomes too much, when even silence feels heavy, and the light you once carried begins to fade. For Daniel, that moment arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning as his coffee cooled beside an unfinished report. He had everything that once seemed important: a steady job, a good apartment, a life that appeared complete from the outside. Yet inside, he was empty. The energy that once drove him had disappeared. Every day felt the same, and even when he rested, he woke up exhausted. He wasn't living anymore, he was only existing. One afternoon, during a long video call, he caught sight of his reflection on the screen. The man staring back looked unfamiliar. Tired eyes, dull skin, the spark gone. Something inside him cracked. That evening, he did something small but different. He shut down his laptop, left his phone at home, and went for a walk. The city buzzed around him, but for the first time in a long while, he listened to the sound of his own breath. Beneath all the noise, he could still feel a quiet pulse of life waiting to be heard. The following weekend, without much thought, Daniel packed a small bag and boarded a train heading north toward the mountains. He didn't plan the trip or check his messages. He just needed space. Real, open space. When he arrived, the air felt alive. The scent of pine and earth filled his lungs. The sound of the wind brushing through trees felt like a language he once knew but had forgotten. He rented a small wooden cabin near a lake, far from the signal of his phone. That first evening, he sat outside and watched the sun sink behind the hills. At first, the stillness felt uncomfortable, even frightening, but slowly he realized that silence wasn't empty. It was full of something he'd been missing. The next morning, he woke before dawn. The world was wrapped in mist, the lake glimmering like glass. Daniel stepped outside barefoot, the earth cold beneath his feet, and breathed deeply. The air filled his lungs differently here, cleaner, quieter, alive. As he exhaled, it felt as if he were releasing years of tension and noise. For the first time in months, he smiled without a reason. He began to walk each day through the forest, no destination in mind, only curiosity. He listened to the sound of water, of wind, of leaves moving gently overhead. He started writing again in a small notebook. Not for work, not for anyone else, just to untangle his own thoughts. The words didn't need to make sense. They only needed to exist. Days passed, and he noticed changes he couldn't explain. His body felt lighter, his sleep deeper, his thoughts calmer. One afternoon, he followed a small trail that led to a hidden stream. The water was so clear he could see smooth stones beneath it. He knelt down, touched the icy surface, and felt a surge of life rush through him. It was more than refreshment. It was recognition. The earth was reminding him that he was part of something greater. The trees didn't hurry, the river didn't force its flow, yet everything moved in perfect rhythm. He realized that maybe his own life didn't need to be forced either. Maybe energy wasn't something you chased, but something you allowed. Each evening, Daniel returned to the lake and sat quietly, watching the light fade. The more he slowed down, the more he began to see the patterns in the water, the heartbeat of the world around him. Nature had its own wisdom. It didn't shout or demand, it whispered, and when he finally listened, it spoke clearly. It told him to breathe, to rest, to trust the process of renewal. By the time the week ended, Daniel no longer felt lost. He felt lighter, freer, and strangely full of energy. The mountains hadn't given him something new. They had simply reminded him of what was already there. On his last morning, he sat by the water's edge, closed his eyes, and whispered a quiet thank you. Not just to the place, but to himself for answering the call to slow down. When he returned to the city, nothing had changed, but everything felt different. The noise was still there, but it no longer swallowed him. He walked slower, breathed deeper, and carried silence inside him like a secret. He began small rituals, morning walks before work, turning off his phone for an hour each day, keeping plants in his apartment, cooking meals from scratch. They were simple acts, but they reminded him that life was meant to be lived, not rushed. He stopped searching for energy in caffeine, screens, or constant productivity. He found it in sunlight, fresh air, deep breaths, and genuine connection. Energy, he realized, doesn't come from doing more. It comes from being more present. Daniel had learned how to recharge his life naturally by returning to the rhythm of the world, the same rhythm that beats quietly inside every human heart. Sometimes the way forward isn't about pushing harder, but about pausing long enough to feel the wind again. When you let nature guide you, you begin to remember who you are. You begin to live, not just survive. And when you finally reconnect with the earth, with your breath, with yourself, you discover that your true energy was never gone. It was only waiting for you to return.